welcome to another live feed on the Shoppers YouTube channel. It's against the Word of God. Mission accomplished. This is from chapter 5, verse 17 of Matthew. The Sermon on the Mount book. These are great teachings of Jesus, written by R.T. Kendall. It just recently broke down the things that Jesus taught in chapter 5 over to chapter 7. So let's get into it continuously. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, it reads, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." Let's get into it. Now, in this chapter, Jesus basically accomplished what he was going to do, not abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. And that's what he did. So let's break down how he accomplished this mission. Continuity versus discontinuity. First, whether the law is to continue, whether it will be discontinued. Continuity in this case means the uninterrupted relevance of the law. Discontinuity means the law is completed and fulfilled. What then did Jesus mean by his word that he had not come to abolish the law, but to complete it? The Greek claricide means to fulfill. The opposite is to destroy. So it means that Jesus would bring about the event to which the law and the prophets were pointing. The law pointed beyond itself. The prophets pointed beyond themselves. The law had not been fulfilled because no one ever really kept it. Not to mention the implications of sacrificial system and ceremonial law. The very content of the law showed that it was incomplete in itself. It is the thesis of the epistle to the Hebrews and for the prophets. It points to someone who was to come. Fulfill the law and the prophets then meant that some person, the event, would be the omega point toward which the law is pointed. At the same time, Jesus spoke these words: the law had not been fulfilled. People didn't even think about such a thing as needing to be fulfilled. Now, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 is where it's at. So let's continue on. Because everything was prophetic, basically, about chapter 5, verse 17. And Jesus hadn't done it yet. He had 2 years or 3 years in which to do it. He was able to do it. So in the previous chapter, he had probably been on the post only for a few months. But this statement is delivered for a promise. It was a commitment that he would do what no other person had done. In his own person, his heart, mind, and will, by his words and deeds, he himself would be the very fulfillment of what the prophets foretold, what the law pointed to. So it's simply another way of saying that Jesus was a fulfillment of the Old Testament law. For the law, the prophets, in one sense of some of the Old Testament. And Jesus uses the words, "I have come," because the purpose of his being there. But he now undertook to do, as we saw, Jesus might have used the word sent, as in the Gospel of John. My food said Jesus is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. The word mission means a work for which a person has been sent. So what mission exactly did Jesus anticipate he had to do to keep his promises to fulfill the law and the prophets? That's to say, if there ever was a mission impossible, this was it. This is what makes Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 so extraordinary. To fulfill the law meant perfectly obeying. Let's look at the statutes of the law, all its rules. Look at have a look at Leviticus, the standard of the law, the required level of equality of obedience, the instructions of the law, moral, civil, ceremonial, the specification of the law, over 2,000 pieces of legislation, as in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, in addition to the Ten Commandments. Strictness of the law, complete and total obedience without the slightest deviation. Scrutiny of the law, which meant a careful keeping of the minutest requirement. He would dot every I and cross every T. Servitude of the law, which meant a curse on all who didn't fulfill its demands. Cursed the man who does not uphold the words of this law by carrying them out. The shadow of the law, since the law was once only a trance of what it pointed to, the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the realities themselves. Sacrifices of the law, since they were repeated after year after year, but never perfected those who drew near to worship. You can see Jesus certainly had his work cut out for him. He said he would fulfill the law. He would fulfill all the Mosaic legislation. He would have to keep the festivals going to Jerusalem 3 times a year. He would keep the Jewish Sabbath every week of his life. He would have to keep the new moons the seventh year, the year of Jubilee, the Passover, the feast of unleavened bread, of Pentecost, of Tabernacles, of trumpets, and the Day of Atonement. Some of the above had already been accomplished by his parents. His role of being a priest would be carried on after his death, resurrection, and ascension to the right hand of God. As fulfilling the prophets, Jesus began to do this when he was born of a virgin. He had yet to become the prophet of whom Moses spoke. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own brothers. He will become the suffering servant of Isaiah. And this talks about this in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3 through 7. It talks about he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. We considered him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. He was pierced for our transgression. He was crushed for our iniquities. Punishment that brought us peace upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. And Jesus will be the Son of Man, of whom the prophet David spoke. Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. He will be the one to dwell in a surprising place in Galilee. He will be the one called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. There are countless other prophecies, mentioned of count anticipated. Jesus will fulfill the law and prophets. Never before had anybody made such a claim. Never before he had people who heard such a claim. And never before had anyone fulfilled such a promise. Mission accomplished. When Jesus uttered the words, "It is finished," he was effectively saying, mission accomplished. What had Jesus done? He standardized his law. That's the first thing he did. He standardized the law. Some thought or feared that he would abolish it and make it an irrelevant standard for righteous living. But no, he had to come to abolish the standard of conduct on which the people of God were to live. The standard of moral righteousness did not change. Secondly, Jesus accomplished his mission by its submission. When Christ came into the world, he said, "Sacrifice, offering you did not desire, but a body you prepared for me. With burnt offerings and sin offerings you were not pleased." Then I said, "Here I am. It is written about me in the scroll. I've come to do your will, God." This is that word that was in the beginning with God, which was with God and became flesh. But becoming flesh, Jesus became bone of our bone, flesh of our flesh. His submission consisted in his willingness to take on a body. The Word, the second person of the Godhead, submitted to having a body. He took on himself not the nature of angels, but the seed of Abraham. Once the Word became flesh, it was submission to having a body forever and ever. That same body will be Jesus' body, not only for some 33 years on earth, but throughout eternity. The nail prints in Jesus' body will always be there. Submission to the law. Submission extends being under the law. He not only submit to having a body, but in that body agreed he will be under the law from the moment of his birth until he breathed his last breath. Therefore, Jesus did not put himself above the law, but submitted to it. But when the time had finally come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law. He who was the eternal Word, Logos, from eternity agreed with the Father under timing, the form of earthly existence, and his submission to the law. So his mission was accomplished because of his sinlessness. He was the first and the last man in world history to claim to fulfill the law. And part of that was the promise never to sin. There is no one who does not sin. There is not a righteous man on earth who does what is right and never sins. Pontius Pilate was constrained to say, "I find no fault in him." Jesus was tempted in every way, just as we are, yet was without sin. Said Peter, he committed no sin. No deceit was found in his mouth. He was holy. He was blameless. He was pure, set apart from sinners. In him is no sin. So Jesus perfectly kept the Commandments. He worshiped only the Father. He came not to do his own will, the will of the Father. I seek not to please myself, but him who sent me. That's what John chapter 5, verse 30 says. He never abused the Father's name. He honored his parents. He never stole. He never lied. He never coveted. He never lusted. He never grieved the Holy Spirit. He never lost his temper or held a grudge. We praying for those who crucified him. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. He practiced what he preached. His mission was accomplished by substitution. Everything he ever did was done as our substitute. His holy life became our sanctification. By his life, faith, and obedience, he did what is required of us, because he did not for himself, but for us. He believed for us with the perfect faith. He was baptized for us to fulfill righteousness. His holy life became a sacrifice for us. His keeping the law was keeping it for us. His perfection was our perfection. His righteousness was our righteousness. His obedience was our obedience. We are actually saved through his life. For his life was a constant, non-stop, perfect obedience from day one. For just as through the disobedience of the one man, the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of the one man, the many will be made righteous. Suffering. His mission was accomplished by suffering. When Jesus was on the cross, he knew no sin, who had never sinned or made sin. There was a moment at some time between noon and 3 o'clock on Good Friday that Jesus was declared to be sin. Martin Luther said that on the cross, Jesus was legally the world's greatest sinner. Why? Not because he never ever sinned, because since the whole world was treated to him as though he were guilty of them all. The Lord laid on him the iniquity of us all. God charged him with our sins, which is why Peter could say he bore our sins in his body. God punished Jesus. The wages of sin is death in any case. The penalty of presumptuous sin under his law was death. Jesus took our punishment and died for us because of all sins, whether sins by high hand, or sins from weakness were charged to him. It was therefore another way. He fulfilled the law for us. The penalty of the law was capital sins was death. Jesus fulfilled the law on our behalf by taking the blame for all our sins. But as our substitute for all our failures, imperfections, and lusts, for our breaking all the commandments, Jesus died. God punishes Jesus instead of us. And Jesus stepped in to take the blame for what we did. During that moment on Good Friday, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Something happened. It was a transaction. That was when Jesus became sin for us. The most holy God could not look upon sin. Jesus felt utterly and totally deserted, hard through it, though it is for you and me to grasp. This was the height of Jesus' suffering. Jesus fulfilled the law by sacrifice. That means that he who was the seed of the woman became our Passover lamb. All the Old Testament sacrifices were shadows of things to come. Jesus Christ was the fulfillment of what the animal sacrifices, bulls, goats, lambs, pigeons, and pointed to. These sacrifices had to be repeated year after year after year. The fact that the sacrifice had to be repeated year after year after year after year ought to have been a pretty strong hint. Suggested writer to the Hebrews that these sacrifices were not doing the job. Every priest and worshiper ought to have suspected that there must be more to come than merely repeating the sacrificial offerings year after year. And there was none, having lived a sinless life for 33 years, including 3 years of public ministry, and after hours of flogging, unfair accusations of unspeakable humiliation. God's Lamb took away the sins of the world. That is when he became the fulfillment of the ceremonial law. Mission accomplished. No sooner than Jesus uttered the words, it is finished. The veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom. That sent a signal to every priest in the temple that what happened on the cross of Jesus in the sacrificial system. The law was fulfilled. The 1900-year parenthesis was over. The veil of the temple being torn, plus bodies of the saints being raised from the dead. Jerusalem. Was God's mission of the cross, mission accomplished. Charles Spurgeon used to say that there are two words you need in your theological vocabulary: substitution and satisfaction. Substitution means that Jesus was our substitute. He took our place, living sinlessly and dying for us. Satisfaction means that the blood Jesus shed satisfied the divine justice. His death meant that our debt was paid in full. One thing that had not taken place since Anna fell in the Garden of Eden was the justice of God being satisfied. Indeed, one thing that had not been achieved since the law of Moses was given had taken place throughout the history of Israel. Even when God showed his wrath on his people for their sin, was his justice being satisfied. Nothing achieved the satisfaction of God's justice, no matter how anyone tried. Adam's fig leaves didn't do it. The skins God prepared for Adam and Eve didn't do it. Enoch walking with God didn't do it. Noah building the ark didn't do it. The patriarchs didn't achieve it. Whether by Abraham sacrificing his son or Jacob's wrestling with God. The faithful Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't satisfy God's justice. Daniel's faith and courage didn't do it. The loneliness and endurance of the prophets didn't do it. The head of John the Baptist didn't do it. On the Isle of Patmos, John told how he wept when he saw that no one in heaven or on earth, or under the earth, was worthy to open the scroll. But one of the elders said to him, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed." Then said John, "I saw a lamb, looking as if it had been slain." They sang a new song: "You are worthy to take the scroll, to open its seal, because you were slain. With your blood you purchased them in for God. No human being, even the best, was worthy. No one was worthy. No one satisfied the justice of God ever. But there is one person, one thing that did it, and it was Jesus Christ, the man in the blood, came from his body on the cross. His sinless life, the blood on the cross did it. The blood of the God-man did it. Satisfaction, mission accomplished. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flowed, mingled down. Did ever such love and sorrow meet? Or thorns compose so rich a crown? It's from Isaac Watts, 1674 to 1748. Isaiah saw it 100 years in advance. Isaiah saw it 100 years in advance. He shall see of the travail of his soul and shall be satisfied. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 11. And lastly, superiority. Jesus' mission was accomplished by his superiority. He not only fulfilled the law, he exceeded the law. His life, for example, went beyond anything anybody thought of. He was not only fulfilled all the specifications of the law, he lived in a manner that was not even suggested by the law. No one lived as he lived. No one loved as he loved. His life exceeded the law. Indeed, exceeded the best of the holiest of men of old. His example set a new standard of righteousness, a righteousness that surpassed that of the scribes and the Pharisees. Far from abolishing the law, then Jesus' life would be called the law of Christ, a standard beyond anything dreamed by the law or the prophets. Mission accomplished. Jesus made a promise and fulfilled the law, and he did it. The words "it is finished" come from the Greek tetelestai, a colloquial expression in the ancient marketplace that meant paid in full. Our substitute became our with satisfaction. We will sing his praises and not stop throughout eternity. Alright, so that's it, man. Mission accomplished, man. Chapter 5, verse 17 of Matthew. This is what it's all about. This is what Jesus did. He's the best to ever do it. That's why we need to keep our eyes on Jesus. So he did everything no one can ever do it. And that's why Jesus is the Savior. He's the one, the way, the truth, and the life. He's the doorway to heaven. That's why we need to focus on him. All right, so tomorrow we focus on the destiny of the law, chapter 5, verse 18. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. That's it, man. chapter 18. Some of them out. Next, we're gonna get into Ultimate NBA History Book. What if book? I'll continue on with the Denver Nuggets. The next team to read about. This is a franchise that is the current only NBA franchise to have a winning record all time. They participated in the NBA Finals. Now, they did make it to the NBA Finals. Now, this book was written before they made it to the NBA Finals, because they did make it to the NBA Finals and won it in 2023 when they beat the Miami Heat. So they did make it to the NBA Finals. This is a franchise that had offers of great players like David Thompson in the 70s, Alex English in the 1980s, Carmelo Anthony in the 2000s, and Nikola Jokic in the 2010s. They had made the playoffs 28 times in 55 NBA seasons. In those 20 playoff appearances, they only made it to the Western Conference Finals 4 times. Now, they did make it to the Conference Finals in 2023. So continue on. Nikola Jokic is that guy that's been transcended since then, since this decade began. He's been like the man god, one of the best players in the league. So this franchise started in 1976 and entered the NBA in 1976. That was poised for success. They had David Thompson in the late 70s. They spent their last 2 years in the ABA. 61 seasons. They had David Thompson and Dan Issel, coached by Larry Brown. And Thompson was ahead of his time. He's a very explosive athlete. He attacked the rim, soared above defenders before Michael Jordan did it. First team in his first season in the NBA, averaging 25.9 points a game, 4.1 rebounds a game, 4-point assists a game. Issel was an NBA All-Star as well in 1977 with 22.3 points and 8.8 rebounds a game. The Nuggets lost 4-2 in 1977. Western Conference semifinals to the eventual NBA champion Portland Trail Blazers and Bill Walton and Maurice Lucas. The same core came back for the next season. David Thompson had his best season of his career, averaging 27.2 points a game, leading the NBA in points per game, and win shares with 12.7. He scored 73 points in the final game of the regular season, and a 139-137 win for the Pistons to win the scoring title. He and George Gervin of the Spurs, the Iceman, were within 100 of a point in scoring average. Gervin scored 68 points on the final night of the season as well, but Thompson won the scoring title. Thompson scored 72 points in the game in 1978. His first team All-NBA in 77-78 season. Finished third in MVP behind Walton and Gervin. Dan Issel had a fantastic season, averaged 21.3 points a game, 10.1 points a game. 10.1 rebounds a game, 3.7 assists. They finished second in Western Conference with a 48-34 record. They were squared off the first round of the 1978 NBA playoffs against the Milwaukee Bucks team that was led by Marcus Johnson. And Alex English. The Nuggets now dominated the first 2 games of the series in Denver, winning by 16 points in each to take a 2-0 lead to Milwaukee. Bucks won Game 3. Denver won Game 4. They won their first playoff series in the NBA. They beat Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games. Like Thompson had 37.6 rebounds, 6 assists, 118, 112 is the final score. They went into the West Conference Finals and faced Seattle or Supersonics and they lost Seattle. On 23-108. So Denver would make his first big trade in the NBA in the summer of 1978, sending Bobby Jones, Bob Simpson, a first round pick in 1984 to 764, George McGinnis, a first round pick in 78. So now you had a three-headed monster of David Thompson, George McGinnis, and Dan Issel. McGinnis and Thompson were all-stars in the NBA in 79. Thompson averaged 24 points a game. McGinnis averaged 22.6 points, 11.4 rebounds a game, and 3.7 assists per game. Now, the NBA went to weird best of three format for the first round. The playoffs in 1979. Only lasted 1983. And four-seeded Nuggets faced off the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Lakers in the season before they had Magic Johnson. And they lost. So Alex English came to the Nuggets and Thompson career headed south. So briefly struggles to start the 1980s. They missed the playoffs in 1980, 1979, 80 season. They still had Dan Issel. He drafted James Ray, 1980, Jacksonville State. He only played 3 seasons. Thompson was covered from foot injury. They had to lose the seed 37 and 45 in the 1980-81 season. Then the blockbuster trade in December of 1980 acquiring Kiki Van away from the Mavericks, sending away a first-round pick in the 1981 and 1985, returning to Corner Storm players for some good Mavericks teams in the 80s and going to Black Man San Vincent. So Nuggets rebrand with the iconic rainbow-colored uniforms of the 1980s and play a fun brand of basketball, which they definitely would do. 1982, 1981, 82 season, they became a playoff team. Alex English became the premier player on the team, leading the team in scoring, assists, and blocks. After 25.4 points, 6.8 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.5 blocks per game, shooting 55%. All NBA second team. Issel was 33 with 22.9 points, average 7.5 rebounds per game. He Van Way averaged 21.5 points a game, 5.6 rebounds a game. But Thompson looked like a shell of his former self. Even though he averaged, 14.9 points per game, 61 appearances, it should have been peaking his prime at peak at age 27. Nuggets played a fast-paced, offensive-minded brand of basketball with very little emphasis on the defensive end. They led the league in scoring 126.5 points per game, the NBA's worst defense. On 126.5 points per game. 1981-82 season and the highest scoring average for a team for a single season in the history of the NBA. Thompson would deal with, drug addiction. He would deal with off the court issues and in 7 seasons with Nuggets, he averaged 24.1 points a game, 4.3 rebounds, 3.4 assists. Into NBA playoffs as the number 4 seed in the West. They lost to Suns, led by Walter Davis and Dennis Johnson. English had his best season of his career. Led the NBA in scoring, 28.4 points a game, 7.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1.5 blocks, 1.4 steals on 52% shooting. He was named to All-Star All NBA second team once again. Finished with his highest finish in the career at 6. Vanderway had his first NBA All-Star appearance. 1983, averaging 26.7 points a game, 5.3 rebounds a game. Then had 21.6 points a game average, 7.5 rebounds per game for the Nuggets, team that was first at scoring. Last in defensive, once again, with 123.2 points per game, 122.6 points given up per game, went 45 and 37. They were the number 6 seed this time and squared off with the Suns again, but they won the series 2-1 this time, winning 117-112 in overtime, rather at game 3. And Phoenix, as English, had 42 points. They eventually lose to the Spurs in 5 games in the second round. In 1983, George Gervin averaged 28.2 points per game. They averaged 132 points a game. English and Vanderway would be All-Stars. In 1984, Kiki Vanderway averaged 29.4 points a game. And English added 26.4 points per game for a Nuggets team that was first in scoring, last in points given up for the 4th straight year. Now, the Nuggets will be involved in the highest scoring game in NBA history on December 13th, 1983. They lost 186-184, jumped overtime to Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons. Isaiah Thomas had 47 points, 17 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. Kiki Vanderway had 51 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. Alex English had 47 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. John Long of the Pistons had 41 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Kelly Tripucka had 35 points. Dan Izzo had 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. So overall, they became the 7th seed overall in the West with a 38-44 record. They lost in the first round to the Utah Jazz, led by Andrew Dantley, Ricky Green, and Darrell Griffith. They made one of the greatest trades in franchise history on June 7, 1984, trading Vanderway to the Blazers for Fat Lever, Kevin Nat, Wayne Cooper, first round, second round pick. Vanderway was a elite scorer, but Lever would become a better player than Vanderway, and Nat and Cooper will play a big role for the rejuvenated version of the Nuggets in the mid to late 80s. So in 1985, the Denver Nuggets became a 50-win team for the first time and made it to the conference finals. So with English, Kevin Nat, Fat Lever, and Dan Issel, who was 36 at the time, Wayne Cooper, and T.R. Dunn, it led them to their 50-win season, first time ever, number 2 seed of the Western Conference. English was left off the All-NBA teams in 1985, but he was an All-Star for the 4th straight season, averaging 27.9 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game on 52% shooting. Nat had the best season of his career, averaging 23.3 points a game, 7.8 rebounds per game. Fat Lever averaged 20.8 points, 12.8 points a game, 7.5 assists, 5 rebounds. Denver went 52-30, led the NBA scoring for the 5th straight season with 120 points per game. Nuggets played the Spurs in the first round again in the next 85 NBA playoffs at San Antonio, was still led by Gervin, but now he was flanked by Mike Mitchell and Artis Gilmore. English and the Nuggets would win Game 5, advanced to the second round. English had 33 points, 9 rebounds, winning 126-99. In 1985, semifinals would be the rematch against the Utah Jazz team. Fat Lever had one of the craziest stat lines in NBA playoff history in Game 1. He had 19 points, 18 rebounds, 16 assists, and 131-13 Nuggets win. They won the series in 5 games and they advanced to the conference finals. First time since 1979. They eventually lose to the eventual champion, Los Angeles Lakers. Showtime Lakers, obviously. Won 5 games. So in 85, 86, Denver came back with the same core. They went 47-35. Finished fourth in scoring. They were like led the league. They were the highest scoring team in the NBA 5 straight seasons. That wasn't the case in 85, 86. So they were number 3 seed. They lost to Houston. They lost 6 games. Plus they had an 11-point lead at halftime. 86, 87 season, man, English led the team in scoring once again. It went 37-45. It was swept. Lakers in 87, no surprise there. 88. Won 54 games. Won the first round against the Seattle Sonics. And then they lost to Denver. Denver lost to Dallas. Yeah, Nuggets lost to Dallas in 6 games. Overall, man, this is a team that was definitely doing their thing. They just couldn't win a championship during that time. Alex Ings was a great player. He's the one that led the league in scoring for the entire decade of the 80s. It was not Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dominique Wilkins. It was Alex English. In the 11 seasons from 1980 to 1991, there were 19, 20-point game scoring seasons. Alex English had 9 of them. So on to the next decade in the 90s would be, a decade of utility, and the biggest upset, obviously, when they upset Seattle Supersonics in 1994, AFC being the number 1 seed. So there's a lot of transition going on. They drafted Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who's later probably known as Chris Jackson. Danny Shays, the Bucks for Terry Mills. Alex Ince left them for the Mavericks in free agency. They were just bad at the time. They were 20-62 in 1990-91. Then they drafted Dikembe Mutombo. He'd be an anchor for that defense. And then they were a totally different team. And now they have Reggie Williams, Dikembe Mutombo, Greg Anderson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Mark Macon, Winston Garland, and Marcus Liberty. They had their tough times, but when he drafted LaFonso Ellis in 92, he started becoming more improved, especially Abdul-Rauf. He averaged 19.2 points a game to Kimbe. They had 36 wins, 46 losses, so the young core started coming to their own. But the turnaround came in 93, 94. They had Mutombo, Williams, Abdul-Rauf, Ellis, Brian Stiff, Robert Pat, Lisa Dele, known as Brian Williams back then, Rodney Rogers. They were the youngest team in the NBA in 1993-94. He was able to upset the 63-19 Seattle Supersonics, winning in the first round. Game 5 on May 7, 1994. 88, 86. Excuse me. Final score was 98, 94. In Seattle, that was a great upset at the time. They drafted Draymond LaRose. They even drafted him. They became cell dwellers to the end of the 90s and began the 2000 total in obscurity. So it just fell off the face of the earth after that. What happened in the 90s? It's terrible. 21 61 at 97, 98 11 at 71, 14 and 36 during the strike show. See, they were 56 and 1 at 68 between 1997 to 99 seasons. 96, 97, 97, 98, 98, 99 seasons. They drafted in 98 draft, they drafted Ray Prince, which turned out to be a bad decision. The number 3 overall pick, they should have drafted Antoine Jameson, Vince Carter, Robert Traylor, or Jason Williams, or Larry Hughes, or Dortmund Whiskey, or Paul Pierce. So they went way ahead, they had better success than the Prince. The Prince only had average 10.1 points a game, 6 rebounds a game. He was almost out of a third of his NBA career with injuries. He was out, chronic issues with injuries. So that's the thing with them. Things would change when Carmelo Anthony came to the team. They eventually get to the conference finals. Had Allen Iverson on the team. It was 2008, 2009. Yeah, they went to the West Conference Finals. Had their core: Carmelo Anthony, Chauncey Billups, J.R. Smith, Nene, Kenyon Martin, guys like that, Anthony Carter. But again, they fell short against the Lakers in 2009. Six games. They get Nikola Jokic and Murray. They eventually won the championship. 2023 over the Miami Heat. They don't have that in this book. They did win a championship in 23. They did. All right, so let's get into this what if to conclude this look at the Denver Nuggets franchise. Look into this what if question. What if the Denver Nuggets drafted LeBron James instead of Carmelo Anthony? Let's get into that breakdown. Denver won a championship in 2023 over the Heat. All right, 2 years ago. All right, so let's get back to the drawing board. What if the Denver Nuggets had the number 1 pick in 2003 NBA draft? They drafted LeBron James. Obviously, LeBron James with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but what if Denver had the number 1 pick? They drafted LeBron James instead of Carmelo Anthony being drafted. But the main question is, what if the Denver Nuggets had the number 1 pick in the 2003 NBA draft, drafted LeBron James. Let's break that down. Obviously, the Cavaliers had the number one pick. They drafted LeBron. Nuggets ended up with Carmelo Anthony, the number three pick. The Pistons had the number two pick. They drafted Serbian prodigy Darko Milicic. Obviously, Carmelo had a fantastic career with the Nuggets from 2003 to 2010. Averaged 24.8 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists in 7.5 seasons. And so look at these scenarios. What if he was on the Nuggets team? What if he would have had in 2007 Iverson, Smith, LeBron, and and Camby? Bench would have had Steve Blake, Eduardo Naira, Lisa, and Reggie Williams, and Reggie Evans. He'd be able to take a team. He was able to take a team. Its number two and number four players, being Jonas Ergauskas, Dave Gibson, Drew Gooden to the finals that season, 2007. What could he have done? What could he have done with Iverson, Camby, and Smith? They probably would have won 55 games, probably, as opposed to 45 games. They would have beaten the Jazz. They would have beaten the Warriors. Defeating the 67 win. Another 5-game series leads to a showdown with the Spurs. This Spurs team was pretty special in 07. Duncan was in his prime, 30 years old. Ginobili was 29. Parker was 25. A lot of scenarios what could have been if he was with Denver, LeBron James. Probably won in 7 games and beating the Lakers and during that year, 2008, I believe. Yeah, they would have lost the Celtics in 2008 NBA Finals. In 2008, 2009, we would have Billups, Chauncey Billups, Gerald Smith, LeBron James, Kenyon Martin, and Nene. The bench would have been Chris Berman, Anderson, Dante Jones, and Cleaver and Anthony Carter. In this show, they felt that, the Nuggets would win the championship in 2009. They had Kobe. They had LeBron. They were beating the Lakers. So there's a scenario with that. Ultimate Universe. Ultimate Universe. A 393, 156 record. NBA postseason 7 appearance, 4-time Western Conference Finals, 3-time NBA Finals, 2-time NBA champion. LeBron James would have been a 6-time All NBA, 6-time All NBA All Star, 2-time NBA MVP. So LeBron James was drafted by the Nuggets. He would have been drafted by the Nuggets if that was a possibility. Carmelo Anthony would be drafted by the Cavaliers. LeBron James would have won 2 NBA titles by the age of 25. Nuggets would have won 2 championships in a row, 2009, 2010. Nuggets were made the NBA Finals in 2008. Kobe Bryant retired with 3 NBA titles. Kobe had 3 NBA titles instead of 5. Never appears in the NBA Finals 2004. Champions who were playing 3 NBA championship teams. Just as the top 30 players in the league history. Obviously makes another NBA Finals appearance in 2008. The Lakers don't have an NBA title since 2002. LeBron James makes his first conference finals in 2006 and his first NBA Finals in 2008. And the Nuggets will have been viewed as a top 10 franchise in league history. Detroit Pistons will be the next team I'll be talking about tomorrow. You can look at what if the Detroit Pistons selected Dwayne Wade, the number 2 pick of the 2003 NBA draft. We're looking at that scenario. What would happen with that? Detroit Pistons. The team to talk about in this whole book of Volume 1 of Ultimate NBA History and What If book, Volume 1. So this is just getting started. Right. So I'm done for today. Yeah, the Detroit Pistons, look at them and then chapter 18 tomorrow. Chapter is it? Chapter 18. The destiny of the law. Matthew chapter 5, verse 18. I'll tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. That'll be it for tomorrow. That's it. Hope you like, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. Be back tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow.